the most rewarded investment you have ever done. I'll never forget the anecdote about a teacher who asked the kids in class, "Where is God?" One child raised a hand, said, "In Israel." The other one said, "In Jerusalem." The other one said, "In the synagogue." The other one said, "In the ark." And one kid raised a hand and said, "God is in the toilet." So the teacher said, "Excuse me?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "Why would God be in the toilet?" The child says, "Whenever my dad goes to the restroom, my mom bangs on the door and says, 'God, can't you get out of there already?'" We want our children to know God a little more knowledgeable than that. We think about the 3,000 years of sacrifices that our ancestors went through, trials and tribulations of the harshest times, but they did not give up their Judaism. They saw to it that Judaism should continue from generation to generation. And that's why we are here today, because of their sacrifices. And they are counting on us to be the link in the chain. Just visualize this very powerful chain. And you are a link in that chain. And you have that choice to make. Am I going to perpetuate and keep the chain going? And I'm going to be a strong link between the past and the future. That could only happen through education. That could only happen when we ourselves are educated. And if we weren't given the opportunity to have a Jewish education, then see to it that your children can have a Jewish education, so that you are doing your part to connect the past, the present, to the future. Children are compared to a orchard where you're going to plant. You want to plant a tree that's a strong tree that will eventually bear its own fruit, that will be strong enough to weather through all storms. But to be able to plant it, you need to take a seed. The seed needs to be planted deep into earth. And it needs to be looked after, it needs to be watered, it needs to be cared for. And then when the sapling starts to grow, we need to be able to trim it, and you need to prune it, and you need to do whatever it takes to protect it so that it could grow up to be a very strong tree. Weeds, anyone could grow weeds. That doesn't take any skill to grow weeds. But to grow a productive tree and a plant that will perpetuate, that takes a lot of commitment, a lot of dedication. And just like we take a seed, we plant it in the earth, miraculously, the seed starts to sprout out. Where does that miracle come from? That miracle comes from the gift from the earth, is from God. God waits for us to make an effort, to dig the hole in the ground, to bury the seed, to water it, to plant it, to grow it. And then God gives you the gift that this seed will germinate and turn into something. The same thing with education. When you make it a priority that you plant the seeds, that you enroll them in a Jewish day school, that the teachers who respect the religion and observe the religion and talk from the heart and teach Judaism as a real living life, then your children will accept it. They will love it. And they will bring it home and share it with you. And together, you are going to grow this most beautiful, beautiful tree that's going to bear tremendous amount of fruit. We know it requires effort, it requires commitment, and it requires a dedication and a devotion that is going to be the most rewarded investment you have ever done. I just want to share with you a personal story that the reason why I am sitting here today talking to you came about because of two individuals made a decision in the most difficult times. 1930. My grandparents lived in Providence, Rhode Island. It was in the most difficult times of the Depression, struggling financially in a terrible way. My grandfather ran a printing shop, barely able to make enough to support the family. They had 7 children, young children. These children were not getting any Jewish education. There was nothing available in Providence, Rhode Island. And my grandparents had to make a decision. Do we stay in Providence, Rhode Island and keep our lifeline of finances alive through keeping our printing presses rolling? But our children are going to lose out. They're not going to have any Jewish education whatsoever. They're going to grow up in absence of any Jewish education. We may be able to sustain ourselves financially, but spiritually we go bankrupt. Or do we close our printing press down? Which basically in those days of the Depression would mean bankruptcy. But we pack our bags and we move to a community, to a city that has a Jewish education. Having to make a decision like that was a very difficult decision. Mind you, during the height of the Depression, 1930, my grandparents made the decision to close the printing shop down. And they packed up, they took their 7 children, moved to Brooklyn, New York, to Borough Park neighborhood, enrolled our children in a Jewish day school. My father was just a little child at the time, 3 years old. He grew up learning Judaism in a Jewish day school. Grew up learning to love Judaism. Him and his siblings all grew up with a solid Jewish education. They all grew up to marry Jewish spouses who are all observant, children who are observant, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. I am sitting here today talking to you as a direct result of one decision that my grandparents made that affected hundreds, if not thousands, of descendants. You do your best, and God will do the rest. God bless you. God loves you.